Are you looking to attract your forever man, but instead of finding him, you keep attracting men who are just wasting your time? The wrong man, Mr. Wrong, over and over and over again. If that's the case, then this video is for you. Hello, my name is Matthew Coast, and welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to be talking about why you attract unavailable and temporary men and what to do instead so that you end up attracting Mr. Right into your life. All right, so number one, let's just jump right in. Number one is the role models that you had for a romantic relationship when you were a child are mirroring your relationship pattern. So I know that was a long sentence. What am I even talking about here? So they've done a bunch of research on this. This is a huge research topic that they've done a lot on. And what they found is that in childhood, when we're in childhood, we look up to our parents, and our parents become the role model for what kind of a relationship that most people get into when they become adults. So if your parents are fighting all the time, if your parents are toxic, if your parents are divorced, if you are missing parents, one or two or both or none or either, if any of those situations, a lot of times what we do is when we become adults, we actually we mirror those kinds of relationships with ourselves. And sometimes it's not even the relationship between like your mom and your dad. It might be the relationship that you had with your opposite sex parent, your dad in this case, right? So if you had some kind of weird relationship to your dad, like your dad disappeared on you when you were young, you felt like you were abandoned by him. A lot of times women that have situations like that will end up in meeting guys who disappear on them over and over and over again. And so you might be saying, okay, great, Matt, but what do I do about this? How do I change it? How do I change what I'm doing? The best thing that you can do is create new healthy role models for relationships. So find people out there who have healthy relationships and make friends with them and talk to them and find out what's going on and how is their relationship, and develop new healthy role models. And what will end up happening is that you may still get drawn in or even attracted to your old kind of model of the world and your old role models. But at least then you can look at it and say, no, that's unhealthy. And this over here is healthy. And I think that instead I'm going to get into this. And anytime I experience this, I'm going to run away from it as quickly as I can. And actually, one thing that happens is a lot of times we will feel really, really attracted, like crazy, like, love at first sight, immediately head over heels, like, oh my God, I'm so in love with you, right? Attracted to people that are completely toxic for us if we had kind of toxic role models when we were growing up. And that's a really good indication that this is the wrong person to be with, right? Sometimes if you feel like that really strong attraction to them, that maybe you're just love drunk right now, and you need to look at them and kind of pull back and go, okay, maybe this is unhealthy. Maybe I should find something else here instead. So number two is that there's a part of you that is actually unavailable. And so this is one of those things where most people, they don't want to believe that they're the problem, right? And it's common with everyone. Everybody's like, no, it's men that are the problem. And men are like, no, it's women that are the problem. And the reality is that we're all the problem. And sometimes if we have trauma from our past that we haven't healed from yet, a lot of times what we'll do is we will sabotage good situations, and we will end up attracting the wrong kinds of men. Because what kinds of men are attracted to women who are unavailable, right? Men who have their own issues that are going on, right? If you're really unavailable and a guy's like, oh my God, you're so amazing, right? There might be something weird going on there, right? And a lot of times, even if he's healthy, you'll end up shutting things down because you want to protect yourself. And that's a lot of times what we do when we have past emotional trauma is we get into a situation and we're scared, right? We're scared. We don't want to get hurt again. We don't want to get hurt like we did in previous relationships when we were growing up and all that kind of stuff. And so we'll like protect our heart and hide our heart. And we're like, no, I don't want to open up. I don't want to, I want to hide my heart, right? And the guy's coming over with a key and he's like, no, I want to put this in and open your heart up. And you're like, no, I will not open my heart, right? And so you end up just like sabotaging things and destroying everything. And so it's one of those things where if you have issues that are going on with you, the best thing that you can do is go back and heal some of those issues, right? And take care of yourself and figure out what it was in your past that you had that was going on and really change the meaning around that, change the story of your life, and allow yourself to let go of any of those negative emotions that you have that are causing you to stay closed off. And if you need to, you can slowly kind of open up and open up and open up until you realize that you can be open all the time and it's not a problem, right? The problem is when you find one person, you open up to that person and then they hurt you. And then you like run off because you had this one experience of opening yourself up and that person hurt you. And then you do it again and again and again because you've never healed that past trauma. And so you keep staying in the same pattern over and over and over again. And so you have to break that pattern. And how do you break that pattern? There's a bunch of different ways. One is healing. And we're going to talk about number 3, which also involves all of this, which is you don't believe in your own value. And I know when I say that, for some people, they get it immediately. But for others, they kind of think that it's some kind of like nonsense, psychobabble, whatever going on. And they're like, does that even mean anything for real? And so what does it mean to believe in your own value? So believing in your own value means that you have standards for yourself and the people that come into your life. Right. So when you don't believe in your own value, what happens is you allow in all kinds of people that probably shouldn't be in your life, toxic people, whatever, because you're scared. You're trying to make something happen. You're afraid that you're not good enough. And so you're trying to prove yourself to that person, so you bring in people that aren't really right for you. You bring in people that you're trying to convince. You're scared of being alone. And so you just want somebody in your life. And then you try to fix that person into being the right person. But you have some issues going on because you have insecurities and you don't really believe that you're enough. And that ends up coming out in everything that you do, which ends up kind of sabotaging anything that you have going on there. And a lot of guys will end up disappearing if they believe in their own value. Or you'll end up in a really toxic relationship where you guys are playing games and fighting each other all the time and just, hitting each other and all that kind of stuff, doing emotional and physical abuse to each other. And that just ends up really bad. However, if you believe in your value, you only allow people in who are good for you, if they align with you and if they enhance your life. So if they aren't good for you, you're like, yeah, you seem really nice and I'm attracted to you, but you're not good for me. And so I'm going to go over here somewhere that I'm actually being valued, somewhere that I'm being treated well, somewhere where they align with who I am as a human being so that there's actually a future here, right? Instead of being with somebody that doesn't align with your future, but you try to like fix them and turn them into the right person. Or somebody who actually enhances your life, right? Like a lot of people that don't believe in their own value, what they do is they grab on to people who aren't who don't bring anything to their life. That's why they end up in toxic relationships, because it's just a big suck. They're both sucking value from each other, and it just turns into this big nightmare down the line. Initially, it's like really hot, and they're just like, you're just so amazing, just all over each other, and kissing each other and all that kind of stuff. Long term, it's a nightmare. And so only get into a relationship with someone who enhances your life. And so how do you do this? How do you change this whole thing where you start believing in your own value so that you attract somebody better into your life? Here's how you do it. Number one, you want to change your self-image. So change the way that you see yourself. And that's one of the things that we talk about with identity. So I'm talking about identity a lot, right? Talking about like being a goddess or a high value woman or a forever woman or any of that kind of stuff. That's all like, when I'm doing that, I'm actually helping you change your self-image, the way that you look at yourself. And that's why it's so valuable to go over these videos over and over and over again, because in these videos, I'm actually taking you through exercises where I'm helping you see yourself as a woman who believes in her own value so that she ends up in a relationship where she's valued. Second thing that you want to do is remove people who don't value you from your life. That includes family members, friends, anybody out there, associates, even if you're in a job where you're not valued. Get rid of all of that stuff and go, if you have to for a little bit, be alone, but only find people that not only value you, but also value themselves. So you want to be around people who value themselves, because you will pick up on their behaviorisms. Some of them might be a little like concerned about you kind of entering into their life as a friend or a relationship or something, but just let them know that you're working on yourself and you're, growing yourself and you want to become the best version of yourself. So you're open to feedback and learning and all that kind of stuff. And they're far more likely to be like, okay, and if it's too much of a problem, they might end up leaving. And that if everybody that you meet is like, no, you're toxic, you're a problem, whatever, you may want to go and seek some therapy or go join some personal growth communities. Personal growth communities are great because there's a lot of really compassionate and empathetic people in those communities who will help you raise your self-image and the way that you see yourself and believing in your own value. And the other thing is just changing the way that you talk to yourself. So number 4, you want to start changing the way where you meet men. So a lot of times, and I did this too. This was a really big mistake of mine when I was younger. I wasn't meeting men, I was meeting women, but going to low odds locations to meet somebody. And so this in particular is usually bars and clubs. Now, can you meet a great guy in a bar or a club that wants a lasting relationship with you and is a really healthy human being and you guys grow together? Absolutely. It can absolutely happen. Does it happen all the time? Yes. Are the odds really low? Yes. Right. So if you go to bars and stuff a lot to meet people, which I get why people go there to do it, you're going to find a lot of really toxic people in bars and clubs because that's people are going there to get drunk and get high and smoke and do all kinds of different things. And, I get it, right? He's really cute when he's too drunk to remember what he was saying because, you were kind of too drunk to remember what he was saying too. And you're just like, oh, this is great. This is amazing. But instead, my suggestion is that you meet people in real life. That is the best place to meet people. I mean, bars and clubs are real life, but in other places in your real life. So figure out what your habits are or your passions are, things that you really care about in your life, things that are really important to you. Maybe go and doing volunteering things or finding stuff that you're really passionate about, and go and do those things. And there will ideally, unless they're just like super women's things, usually there'll be a bunch of guys that are in those kinds of things. And so my suggestion is that you go places. Another thing that you can do is find out where the types of men that you would like to meet go, and then go to those kinds of things. Do you want like a guy who's a business leader? You can go to entrepreneurship or personal growth or business related events and join communities like that and all kinds of different things and meet those kinds of guys. And when you go and do that, it'll be so much better. Just go to those events and just work on just talking to anybody. Just start talking to people. That is the best thing that you can do, is just get out of your shell a little bit and just practice just starting conversations with lots of people. And eventually you'll meet people that meet people, and that's your best odds, right? My whole thing is about helping you have the absolute best odds of ending up in the relationship that you want. And that's what I do. I'm a researcher. I study patterns, and I help women get into the relationship they want by increasing the odds that it will happen. Number 5 is, then there's 6 of these, just so you know. Number 5, getting overly attached to men before they've proven themselves. So getting invested way too early with a man, and you know you're getting invested too early with a man because you care. You care a lot about what's going on with him, right? It's like, I talk to women sometimes and they're like, well, there's this one guy and he sent me a message on this dating app, and then he sent a couple messages and we talked for a little bit and now he's disappeared. How do I get him? And it's like, whoa, you are way too invested in a guy that you don't even know if he's real. You don't know what he really looks like. You've never met this person in real life. There's a lot of things. Like a lot of times when you meet people online, you meet them in real life and they're a completely different person. It is possible that he's exactly the same as he is online, but there are a lot of liars out there. So getting invested way too early, I talk about this, the investment principle. I talk about it in my program. Putting men on a pedestal, like, you're doing this because you talk about him like he's the most amazing man in the world. You're like, he's the one. I knew it was love at first sight. I saw him and I just wanted him and I wanted to grab him and pull him in and just kiss him all over his face and love him, right? And I hear women doing this and they're like, he's the one. How do I make him see that I'm the one, right? And I'm like, whoa, you are like putting him way on this pedestal. Right? He's a dude. He's just a regular guy. He puts his pants on one leg at a time like the rest of us. And, he does dumb things. He does smart things. He's like everybody else. And the only reason that you are so enamored by him is because you're putting him, what we call putting him on a pedestal. So you're putting him way up here. And when you do that, men are not attracted to women who put them on pedestals. Men do not want to commit to women who put them on pedestals. Men do not want to be with women who put them on pedestals. Men want women who are just a little bit out of their league. That's what men want. Ideally, he wants a woman that's way out of his league. But if you want him to stay attracted to you and want a committed relationship with you, you want him to feel like you're a little bit out of your league, out of his league, but you're willing to let him come in. I talk about that in detail in the Forever Man program. All right, so the next one is dating men one man at a time. This is another reason why women get overly attached to men. And it's you date one man, and I get it, right? You don't want to feel like you're cheating, and you don't want to feel like you're doing something wrong and it's uncomfortable. And what if he asks you if you're dating other people and all that kind of stuff? But the problem is that just from an odds standpoint, right? Just a probability standpoint. Usually 1 out of 10 of anything is better than the other 9, right? So if you meet one man and you date him and you want him to be the one, the likelihood that he is pretty low. And it's possible, right? I know plenty of people that have done this. I have a brother that actually married his high school sweetheart, I know lots of people that have done things like that. They just meet one person and they're like, this is it, right? And they get married and they're married forever. That's totally great. And that's amazing. If that hasn't been your situation up until now, you may want to change things up a little bit, right? And if you're dating one person at a time, you are in a world of scarcity. And if you're in a world of scarcity, there's all kinds of other problems that come up. And so you want to instead do abundance dating, where you're dating more than one guy at a time, ideally not more than three, because then you start forgetting who he was and what you said to him, and you tell him the same story over and over. And he's like, why have you told me the same story like 6 times, right? But you want to date more than one guy because that makes it so that it's faster, and you can, what will happen with these guys is their red flags will come out, and it won't be like, oh, I got to fix his red flag. Oh, I got to ignore this red flag. It'll be like, oh, okay, his red flags came out, and now I'm going to look at that a little bit closer. But if it doesn't work with him, it's fine, because I'm still dating these other guys as well. And one of them is going to be good at some point here, and then he's going to chase me and commit to me and want a relationship to me. And that's when I'm going to stop dating other people. And my suggestion is that you become unapologetic about this. Some guys want it so that they meet you, and before they even meet you, you're committed and you're getting married and all that kind of stuff. That is a bad way to go. Do not do that. Bad way to go. Number 6, ignoring red flags because you want it to be more. And so this usually comes from scarcity, right? Like what I was talking about before, where you're just dating one guy and you're like, well, it has to be more, with him, because you want him to be the right guy so badly that you forget that he has like serious mental and emotional issues. You opened his closet door and you found a bunch of, clown porn in there, and he calls you the wrong name every time you meet. You're like, yeah, but he's got to be the one, because he's the only guy in my life, right? Just stop doing that. Start abundance dating. Another reason this can happen is because feelings of unworthiness, which is a thing around self-image and believing in your value. Another reason is just impatience, right? Because you're like, well, I don't want to, I'm gonna keep getting older every single day. I mean, this happens with women. We had a woman in our community like a couple weeks ago who was, I think she was like 22, and she was, or 24 or something like that. And she's like, I'm 24 years old and I still haven't found the love of my life. Is it over for me? And it's like, what? You're like, uh, your brain hasn't even fully developed yet. If you're 24 years old, your brain doesn't fully develop until you're around 25. So just chill out a little bit, right? Just chill out a little bit. And I'm just going to read over these real quick again, because I know I took a long time going through these. So we have the reasons why you attract unavailable and temporary men and what to do instead. So number 1 is role models of parents when you're growing up, and the best way is to get better role models. Number 2 is there's a part of you that's actually unavailable or toxic or unhealed, and you need to go back and heal that part of your life and who you are so that you can get into a healthy relationship. Number 3 is you don't believe in your own value, and what you need to do is change your self-image and start believing in your own value. Number 4 is meeting men in low odds locations. You can do it. It can happen, right? Dating apps, for instance, it's just like massive amounts of dudes, right? It's a very low odds location. So it's meeting in a bar. Can you do it? Absolutely. You have to get really good at screening, which I talk about in the Forever Man program if you're interested in that. And getting overly attached to men before they've proven themselves, that's a big no-no. Just stop doing that. Number 6 is ignoring red flags because you just want it to be more. I don't care about his clown porn in his closet. I want it to be more.